Welcome to Not Your Average Blonde, the mindset and wellness podcast where we break limits, rewrite stories, and create extraordinary lives. I'm your host, Melissa, and I'm here to help you rise higher, live braver, and dream bigger. Let's get into today's episode. Have you ever felt restless in a life that once felt like your dream? Maybe you're living that life today, the life you once dreamed of, the one that you busted your ass for, the one you begged the universe for. It was great when you received it, but over time, you feel it has grown stale. Like you're wearing clothes that no longer fit, except it's your entire identity. It's just not as simple as clothes and changing it up and getting a new wardrobe. If you are waking up anxious, disconnected, exhausted, it might be easy to think or to jump to judgment that like you're failing. But what if you're not? I'm here to tell you in this episode that you are not failing and that what you are feeling, what you're experiencing is perfectly normal. It's a sign that you are evolving. And today I want to break down what the evolution looks like and the signs that show that you're outgrowing your old identity. I broke it down into about 6 clear, powerful signs that indicate that you are outgrowing your old identity. And this is for those of you who are like the high achievers, the former golden children, those of you who feel guilty for wanting more or something different, because like you know that like your life is good, especially if you are living that dream that you busted your ass so hard for and you've achieved it, you're here, you've arrived, but yet you feel kind of empty and like unfulfilled and like there's something there, but you almost kind of feel guilty because you're like, why am I feeling this way? This is my dream. Like I am literally living like the dream I worked so hard for. But that's a part of life. That's a part of this process. I completely understand. I have been there. I'm in your shoes like right now, and I'm here to tell you that you are not alone. So first off, I want to thank you so much for listening to Not Your Average Blonde. If this is your first time joining me, I am your host, Melissa, and I'm here to remind you that the discomfort and what you are going through right now, it's not a crisis, but you are finding your calling. Grab a journal because you have a couple of things that you may want to write down throughout this episode. Grab a drink and let's just go ahead and dive right into like these 6 signs that I wrote down that have been massive indicators in my life that I am evolving. I'm shedding my old identity. So sign number 1 is you can't wear the mask anymore. You know the mask that I'm talking about, the one that smiles when you're tired, the one that says, I'm fine, even though you're like unraveling inside. This is the one that helps you nod along in rooms and meetings where you don't belong anymore in the conversation and you just feel like out of place. This is the mask that you wear when you are engaged in conversations that like drain you and the people that you're around like drain you. It's can be incredibly exhausting, but all these are indicators that like you've outgrown that space that you're in. You've hit the point where pretending to be who you used to be now costs more than the discomfort of change. And it all starts very subtly at first. This is, the job that once felt like the dream and now it leaves you drained and it leaves you asking that question of like, is this it? Is this all that there is? This can also be conversations with friends that used to light you up, but now feel forced. You know, that group of friends that you used to go out with all the time and hang out, or you go to like bars and you have to like, you're drinking and you're have different objectives like for the night, but that scene like no longer suits you anymore, or you feel like your friends are content with being stagnant and where they are like in life and they have no desire to move or to evolve as well, but you feel like you're evolving and kind of like leaving them behind and you feel like you're past that place of like of where they currently are or where you once were like with them. And that's okay. That's again, this is also like part of the process, but it's those conversations with friends that, like I said, used to light you up, but now it feels forced and it drains you. Other indicators of like wearing that mask is like you laugh at jokes that like you don't find funny anymore. Things that, maybe back like in college you thought were hilarious don't quite fit you anymore. You nod along in meetings like when you're at work, and in those meetings you're like sitting there wearing that mask, nodding, agreeing, whatever it may be, but like inside your soul knows that like this isn't it. You don't want to be there. This isn't it. So you feel yourself like overall with all these situations, you feel yourself just shrinking to stay small and in spaces that no longer align with who you are evolving into. And it's fucking exhausting to wear that mask. I've made it known before, but during my time in the military, there is a lot of emphasis, especially when you're in leadership positions, to wear that mask. you have many days where you are expected to wear the mask. You can't allow your personal stuff to ebb into the job, which I get, like I've lived it. It's not a knock like on it. That's a part of like the job and like the position that you're in. But there's also a lot of cultural nuances as well that bring the expectation for people to wear the capable leader mask all the time, 24/7. You smile, you perform, you push. Even when you're questioning things internally or you're crumbling inside, you still have to put on that mask and show up like for yourself and for those that you're leading and for those that are around you. And it's sold as a strength to wear that mask 24/7, which I will caveat, there are times and places where it is absolutely necessary to wear that mask and to use it as like a strength, especially in certain situations. It just depends on where you are and what mission you're performing and the job that you're at and the time that you're at. But what they don't talk about is you have to build that balance and a time and a space to be able to take that mask off, to process and to allow yourself to mourn, grieve, to grow, to process, whatever it is that you're going through in life and to evolve. And that is the part they don't teach you. And it's rarely, if ever, like talked about, especially within like military circles. But that mask can be used as like a comfort blanket as well too, and it can breed a lot of like unhealthy tendencies. A lot of people in life, they reach that point where they can't fake it anymore. They can't wear that mask anymore. I definitely have hit that point. Rather, my body especially forced me to hit that point. It hit me so fucking hard, and my spirit has taken the toll. And like I've known for a while that like I've needed to take off like that mask, but it's with just the atmosphere and everything. And I can make probably like a million excuses for it, but like deep down, what I'm trying to say is like deep down, like my soul, my mind, my body knew that needed to change. I needed to grow. I needed to evolve. And it took a toll. It took a toll on my spirit. It took a toll on my health. It took a toll on my body. And like my body was begging to slow down and to reevaluate and to pivot. And that involved, dropping the mask or like lose myself, which change can be scary. And it's so easy to wear that mask and to continue wearing that mask versus facing yourself in the mirror and making those changes like in your life. So if you are here, if you are in this position, maybe you know that moment in the past that you were in that position, or if you are in this place like right now, or if you have a friend that's in this place right now, it's that moment in your life, that realization that you would rather disappoint others than abandon yourself. It's hard. I want to acknowledge that it's a tough moment to come to. And I know so many people who never face that moment because they allow fear to continue to dictate them wearing like that mask. And I get it. That mask is easier to wear than to face yourself in the mirror. In order to grow, in order to evolve, you have to peel off that mask and face yourself. So I want you to take a moment and ask yourself, where in your life are you pretending? Is it at work? Is it in your marriage? Is it in your relationship? Is it a friendship? What would it feel like to let that mask drop, even just a little bit? You don't actually have to like do it. I just want you to reflect like right this moment on like those aspects of your life where how would it feel to just drop that mask just a little bit? You don't have to burn it all down. I'm not asking you to burn down your life or to burn like all the bridges. As fun as that can be to like, burn the boats. I'm not asking you to do that. But what I'm asking you is to take that moment and to reflect and ask yourself, where are you like at in your life? And kind of just do like a check-in and see where those spots are where you can't keep hiding and where you can drop that mask a bit to be able to move forward into the next chapter. The second sign is your old goals feel hollow. I already alluded to this like earlier on, like in this episode, but this is, you have achieved the things that like you once prayed for. You're in that job that you like busted your ass so hard for. It feels good. It feels good to have arrived. But that feeling, it eventually fades and you almost feel almost like an emptiness or a hollowness. What once motivated you, whether it was the promotion, the validation, the praise, the relationship, you name it, whatever it may be, it doesn't hit the same anymore. You used to chase those goals for the approval that they brought you, for the applause, for that gold star. But now your nervous system, you just want peace over the applause or over the recognition. It can be an incredibly unsettling feeling, especially when you reflect back of where you are right now and like how you're feeling and how much work and effort that you put in towards reaching like this goal or this point like in life that you've achieved. It can be unsettling to process that because it's different. And you may wonder, like, if this doesn't fulfill me anymore, like what will? You get the promotion, but instead of celebrating, you feel that dread. You hit a milestone, but there's no joy. You cross a goal off your list and instantly feel, okay, what's next? Like I'm guilty of that one. One of my words for this year, I'm trying to add more into my life. It's to like celebrate more. And it has been so hard to be able to add more celebration like into my life, especially this year, more emphasis of that because it's been a very tough habit to break because it's so ingrained in me to, reach that goal that I've been busting my ass towards. And I finally achieve it. But then I immediately start wanting to okay, what's the next thing? What's the next chapter? What's this next goal? And we forget that sometimes we just need to stop checking the boxes. Or once we've checked that box, take that moment to appreciate and to celebrate where we are. Your goals can very quickly feel like boxes to check instead of dreams that are meant to be lived. And part of living is being in the present. So I want you to know that you are not losing your ambition if you are in this phase right now. You're just refining it. You come to the realization that many of your old goals were never yours. They may have been expectations of society, your family, your culture, or even your past self who didn't know your true values. Because guess what? So many of us make lifelong or life-altering decisions at such a young age, especially early in our 20s or teens, that are going to affect us the rest of our lives, or a good chunk of our lives, when it comes to careers and relationships, marriage, kids. But you make those decisions before you even fully know who you are. And I think a lot of people, when you hit kind of your midlife crisis, they have that period of shit, how did I get here? Or I'm here, but I don't know who I am. Or they finally have realized who they are, but they realize that their life no longer aligns with the person that they have become and that they've evolved into. And they start questioning everything. And you go into a very unsettling period. And I just want to let you know that it's okay. You were growing, you were learning. When you made those decisions with the best information that you had at the time. But what I'm here to tell you is you are allowed to pivot. So wherever you are in your life right now, especially if you're in a position where your life doesn't feel fulfilling, where you are questioning things, it's okay to pivot. That's part of the beauty of this life. Honestly, one of the goals of this life is to not be stagnant, is to continue to grow, to make those pivots, to change and to evolve. So what goal are you chasing right now that no longer aligns with who you are becoming or the person that you want to become? Do a quick evaluation on your life and see and compare that. What would it look like to redefine success on your own terms, not the terms that society has told you, not the terms that your parents have told you, not the terms that whatever. For me, religious organization, for example, when I was Mormon, my God, there were so many strict expectations of what success was defined for me. And that looked like getting married super young, and then having kids. College education wasn't a thing. I was actually kind of ostracized a bit for wanting to get a degree and stuff. And, so I started pursuing those things, and it definitely did not align. I ended up getting my degree. I ended up going a very different route. I got divorced and completely pivoted in my life. And fortunately, early on in my 20s, I recognized pretty quickly that these were expectations of what this society was telling me. Society and culture was telling me that I should do, but it didn't align with who I was or the woman that I wanted to evolve into, which is an ever evolving process. And I absolutely love it. The third sign is grieving what you used to want. This is one of the hardest parts of growth, is grief. You're grieving the dreams that you once had, and you feel confused because you no longer want them, but letting them go still hurts. You're not just grieving the goal, you're grieving the version of you who wanted it as well. The part of you who believed that it was the pinnacle, where you are was the pinnacle. And it could be scary. It can be a very scary realization, but it's also really cool too if you want to flip it, because if you thought that where you are right now was the pinnacle in life, that just means there's so much potential that's still out there. You've grown, you've become more whole, more real, more you, but it still is a scary process, especially if you have sunk so much time and money and resources into where you are right now. But deep down, you feel that pull. You feel that pull towards something new, something unfamiliar. You have new passions or unfamiliar passions that are there, and places and paths that have kind of opened themselves up as potential and possibility for you. And they feel scary and also exciting at the same time. But that's the beauty with potential. But I wanted to let you know that it is one of those signs is to kind of grieve those things that you used to want. It's okay to mourn what you're leaving behind as you evolved. When I hit burnout, I realized I needed to leave behind the version of me who equated worth with productivity. It hurt to admit that the life that I built wasn't aligned anymore, especially because I'd put so much time and resources and have fought really hard to get to where I am. But as I've been learning how to let go, I am making more space for those things that I truly want, that I, Melissa, the woman that I've evolved into today and the woman that I want to continue to evolving into, aligns more with what I truly want, not defined by someone else. But I needed to take the space to recognize what I am grieving. And it still is a process for me. I'm still very much in my transition process, as one part of my life is crumbling and another is still unfolding. I'm still very much in the chaos of that. As I'm going through this chaos, I've recognized that I needed I have been needing to take the space, and I take it here and there to recognize like those things that like I accomplish and appreciate what I've accomplished, but also to grieve like the change and the process and almost like that loss or shedding of an old identity. I've had to take the time to identify like what those things are that like I am grieving. What old dream do I need to honor and release? And I ask you the same thing too. So like I said, for me, this is my time. Like right now, one aspect is like my time in the Air Force. I have need to honor like the time that I gave and the effort that I put and the accomplishments that I achieved. And it's also okay to mourn the loss and the change, especially the change in path and like my future and the trajectory that like I was on. But I need to like mourn that so I can release it, so I can step more fully into like my next chapter and be at peace as this chapter currently closes. And there's a lot of beauty like in that process, and a lot of beauty I'm finding like in the breakdown of that. Sign number 4 is the feeling invisible in old spaces. This is a tough and a confusing one to navigate because a lot of times you think there is something wrong with you when you are in those like situations. It's not you. I'm telling you that right now. You're not being rejected, but what you are doing is you are outgrowing those old spaces. Those are the friendships, the job, the environments that once felt like it are now draining you. You show up, but you feel disconnected. You're playing a role that you've outgrown. You might feel guilty for this restlessness that you're experiencing or think that you're like ungrateful, but you're not. You are evolving. And what expanded you before now feels small for who you are becoming. Last year I took some time off from work and I went to Spain. The trip was like desperately needed. I did a lot of reflection like on this trip, and I had to completely like change the environment that like I was in because I needed to get into a different place to be able to get into the headspace that I needed to. Just to process everything that was going on like in my life, because like I was on, I'd say like probably like the leading edge of like change was coming, and right before my life like started crumbling a bit. But I needed to take that space and that time to give me the space and the different environment to kind of change like my perspective. And it was a bit like tough because I definitely was exhausted from being burned out, but it gave me the space to recognize like, ooh, okay, like I am burned out. Like I am heavily burned out. Like what are some of the factors that like led to me getting to this point like of burnout? It gave me a lot to like to think on and a process. And when I returned back to work after my trip, one of the biggest realizations I had was just how invisible I felt in those spaces that I was busting my ass and working so hard to fit into. Leading up to that trip, I definitely had so many days and just weeks and months. Months where I felt like I was just hitting a brick wall of just trying harder and harder and harder to achieve these things that like I thought were accomplishments that I needed to hit, and to force myself into a path that literally just threw up like a brick wall. And I was hurting myself like every single time, like I was running into like that wall. But taking that trip and taking that space and that time gave me a chance to like realize that I felt invisible like in those places, and I need to probably focus my effort on like other things. It took me some time to realize that it wasn't rejection, because especially in those situations, like it's so easy to take it incredibly personally and to start wondering like what is wrong like with you, what is wrong with me. But deep down, when I dug down a bit deeper, it was my spirit that was telling me that it's time to move on. Change is coming. Look at other things. Like this path is not the one that's for you, and to stop wasting my energy and my mental focus on spaces where I feel invisible, the spaces where I was not wanted, and spaces where I was forcing myself to stay in out of guilt or fear of change, or fear of, or not even like fear of like fighting to stay in like what was familiar. I had a really good mentor who always tells me, and this quote always like comes to mind of where you are celebrated, not where you are tolerated. The next sign number 5, is craving depth and substance. You're no longer satisfied with noise and trends. You crave truth. You want depth. You want substance. You want those slower mornings. You desire deeper conversations. You crave intentional relationships. You want your work to mean something, to have edification. You're no longer chasing a new identity, but what you are doing is you're remembering like your soul and your values. For me, one big things I realized, like as I've been like on this journey of like growth and change and creating like some of this podcast, is the realization that like my values have shifted. Status means less, but freedom means more. Hustle feels hollow at times, but alignment feels more alive. Those surface level friendships and relationships, they are fading. And I used to question that, like why those relationships would fade. But as I've been going further like on this journey, I've noticed that the more surface level friendships have faded, but then I've been blessed to have deeper connections come into like my life that have provided me with a stronger community and people that I connect more with and people that align more with the values that like I have and that offer more intention in the connection that I have with it, which is pretty cool. It can be scary and it can definitely be lonely at times, especially as you're going through that shedding and as you're building and evolving yourself and new communities. But as those old friendships fade, your soul, it's making room for new, more aligned like connections. Going into the last sign, number 6, I definitely want to keep this like kind of like a shorter episode. So sorry if it feels like I'm kind of rushing through this, but I just wanted to, I don't know, it just like was some inspiration that hit me and I wanted to write down like the top like 6 things that came to mind as you're like changing, growing, evolving. But sign number 6 is discomfort and friction. This is a challenging one to navigate because you can be fighting feelings of irritability and restlessness and numb, or you feel stuck or stagnant like in your routines. You're going through the motions, but something feels off. This discomfort, it's not failure, it's data. It's your soul literally tapping you on the shoulder and saying, we are done here. It's time to move on. When you're ready to evolve, your life will become uncomfortable in the places that no longer serve you. And this isn't a crisis, it's a calling. Like shift your mindset, shift your perspective on that from this isn't a crisis, it's a calling. It is calling you into the next stage of your life. The sign is it can be incredibly challenging because it can lead to like depression and anxiety, especially if you're going to like wallow in those feelings. If you ignore what your soul is trying to tell you, and especially if it's nudging you towards change, it can force you to kind of dig your heels in and to dig that hole like deeper and deeper because you don't want to move. You don't want to change because discomfort, it's in the word itself. Like it's not comfortable. But what I've learned is that discomfort is often the doorway to your next chapter. It's going to be uncomfortable as your old life crumbles and fades away. But it's what it's doing is it's clearing the way for you to build for the next chapter in your life. As I'm writing down some of these signs like I'm experiencing in my life, this one reminds me of the time leading up to my divorce. I had so many emotions. I was extremely uncomfortable because like I knew deep down the marriage was going to end, but I didn't want it to end. And I didn't want to be the one to end it, even though inside I knew I had to. For years, I literally dug my heels in and fought it. And for years, I lost so much time and I continued to live like in the pain of that discomfort and anguish and friction of knowing what I needed to do, but I didn't do it. Obviously, I eventually did it. I knew divorce was the best option and I pulled the trigger and I did it, but it was so hard getting up to that point. It was so hard. And I ended up just kind of like prolonging that period of discomfort and suffering because I didn't want to take the action. Like I said, I eventually did it and it was an incredibly uncomfortable process, but coming through it, it was so worth it. And I have so much peace about the decision that I made. It was what I needed to happen and I needed to be done. But I had to go through the discomfort and the doorway to get into the next chapter of my life, which was so much more than what I could have imagined at the time that I was like languishing in my period of indecision and afraid to move off the X. When you face moments in your life like this, don't ignore what your gut is telling you. You need to listen and honor it. Growth is going to require discomfort. You have to break old routines. You have to learn to embrace uncertainty and to confront your fear. You may feel disoriented during the process. And that's honestly how I feel right now as I'm going through this transition period of 2 chapters of my life. I currently have one facet of my life that is like completely crumbling, but the next path has not been revealed yet. And it can be incredibly disorienting. But the uncertainty is indication that like I'm growing and it's giving me the opportunity to explore new possibilities. Yes, there are moments of doubt. I had that when I was going through my divorce too. It's normal. Change is not always going to be smooth and it's never linear. There's going to be doubt and self-questioning. But what I do know is there is always a way. The discomfort will always end. Nothing lasts forever. And in the meantime, I had to learn how to embrace the discomfort and how to roll with it. I'm not perfect. It's not all the time. Like there's definitely times when I kind of balk at it. But overall, I've learned that you need to learn how to embrace the discomfort and roll with it. I view discomfort as a positive sign. It's a sign that I am evolving and I am expanding and I am changing and that there is a lot of potential on the horizon. I'm learning to be more patient in the process. I understand that transition takes time and it's going to be a process before I feel grounded again in the next chapter. It's also teaching me that I need to stay present. Those times when I feel overwhelmed, especially with the uncertainty of it all, this is teaching me how to pause and how to breathe and to choose how I want to respond to this discomfort and the change that's going on in my life. I know that learning how to navigate the discomfort, I'm also learning how to more successfully navigate this period and move towards like my fullest potential. Outgrowing your old identity, it's not easy. It's a very complicated mix of grief and freedom, fear and expansion, and all at once, like some days. It can be a roller coaster, but it's your invitation and time to become who you are meant to be. So I want you to ask yourself, what are you being called to let go of? Is it a limiting belief? Is it a relationship? Is it that job? Who are you being called to become? I'll give you a hint. It's probably someone happier. So as I wrap up this episode, I want to give you a challenge. Pick one sign of the 6 I gave you today that resonated most with you. Drop it in a comment, send a DM, whatever, or just like write it down on like your notepad, notebook, journal, whatever it is, and make note of it. And then write down 3 small actions you can take in the next, 48 hours to a week to honor your next chapter, whether that's learning how to be patient in the discomfort or learning how to take off like that mask, or periods in your life when it's okay to let that mask down like a little bit. Think back on that and write down those actions that you can take. So this is how we stop living on autopilot and we start living more aligned, living a life that is more authentically you. It just is those small actions. They compound, they build. So if this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend who's in a season of becoming. If you could rate and leave a review on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, so many more people can find this space. It helps me to grow the show and to get my message out there to help others evolve and embrace not being average. And I want you to remember, your life, it's not on hold. It's happening right now. You're not behind, but you are becoming. You are becoming not average. So thank you for being here. And until next time, thanks for listening to Not Your Average Blonde. Thanks for tuning in to Not Your Average Blonde. Remember, your story isn't finished yet, and the best chapters are still ahead. If today's episode spoke to you, share it with a friend, and don't forget to follow the show on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. Stay connected, stay bold, and most of all, stay unapologetically you. Until next time.